Welcome back to a brand new Mikey Chipmunks, ladies and gentlemen. I want to talk today about Astro Bot. If you would have told me in 2024 that Astro Bot was going to take home the win for Game of the Year, I would have thought you were crazy, because we live in a day and age now where 3D platformers kind of fell by the wayside. We almost completely left it behind in the 6th generation of consoles with the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox respectively, and we've seen sprinkles of games released in the genre here and there, mostly by indie developers. You have games like Clive and Wrench, Ukulele, which was actually made by the ex-Banjo-Kazooie team over at Playtonic. You know, A Hat in Time, which is one of my favorite 3D platformers of all time, and I highly suggest you check it out. Yeah, it's a genre that just feels like kind of forgotten at this point in favor of these like live service games, multiplayer centric stuff. You know, you have games like Helldivers 2 that's been dominating the scene. Call of Duty, of course, is always going to be here. When I saw Astro Bot at the end of that state of play back in whenever that was, like May or June, I was freaking out, like in the best way possible. Oh my god, PlayStation actually acknowledged they have a knack for making these beautiful 3D platformers. Yeah, it was just like a nice return to form. Astro Bot just looked like a barrel of joy. A nice, innocent game just about having fun. It was bright and colorful. The world's just so breathtakingly gorgeous. Astro Bot looked to be utilizing, as a friend of mine says, the power of the PS5, bro. Like, games like that look so much exponentially better than always focusing like on realism. You do have games like Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok that look absolutely gorgeous, but when you get these like Nintendo-esque titles, they didn't even try to hide the fact that this game is heavily inspired by Mario, and I mean, it was evident from the first level. Well, actually, it's been evident since Astro Bot Rescue Mission, which came out around 2017, 2018. Don't quote me on that. You know how the saying goes, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Team Asobi would go on during their Game Awards speech, recognizing that if it wasn't for a little plumber that started it all back in the 80s, we wouldn't be here where we are today, especially with that genre. Mario walked so Astro Bot could run. I'm really here to talk about the significance of why Astro Bot winning at the Game Awards was so significant. 3D platformers especially, but it kind of goes beyond 3D platformers now too. You're starting to notice a shift in the gaming industry, slowly but surely. People are tired of the bullshit. They just want a fun game out of the gate. They're tired of being sold on microtransactions and battle passes and stuff like that. And that stuff will always have its market. There's always going to be people excited about, you know, the next Fortnite update. I don't really follow free-to-play stuff too much. Free-to-play stuff like that will always have its audience, but I think people are just starting to recognize now that they want fun games out of the box. And why should that be such a hard thing to ask for? After all, wasn't that what gaming was for the longest time? You'd boot up your PS2 and you'd pop that sucker in, and that was it, man. You go explore the worlds of Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Ape Escape. I will talk about Ape Escape to death. I would absolutely love it if Team Asobi made a new Ape Escape. That would be next level, especially after that Ape Escape level in Astro Bot. Please, Team Asobi, get on that. I digress. Yeah, that shift, I'm starting to notice it now. We actually have to go back to see the impact that 3D platformers have had to see where we are today with it, right? Now, obviously, 3D platformers was once big business for the big three. Even before the big three, being Xbox, Nintendo, Sony, 3D platformers really started with the PS1 and N64, obviously with Mario 64, bringing that genre to prominence. We had like Jumping Flash, which I believe predates Super Mario 64. Super Mario 64 obviously revolutionized gaming with the dynamic camera. We were able to see more of the game world. It was a brand new dimension to just explore. It was exciting. And even though I'm too young to have experienced it in the actual heyday when it came out, I could still see the impact that has had on gaming going forward. 3D platformers are very much important games for the gaming industry because it's led to a lot of innovation, new mechanics, new ways to maneuver in a game world that stretches beyond side scrollers and games of yesteryear. with the popularity of games like Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot that led into that 6th generation of consoles with some of those franchises I had mentioned. Obviously, each console, you know, they're big 3D platformers. You know, your Jak and Daxter on PS2, Billy Hatcher GameCube, and games like Voodoo Vince on Xbox respectively. Every one of these companies wanted a piece of that pie. I just miss it so much, man. Xbox especially, like Blinks the Time Sweepers. Anybody remember that game? Like, that was so cool and original, and it's just they never went back to that. But now with a game like Astro Bot dominating sales and being the little robot platformer that could, maybe it's starting to show these companies, oh man, we want a piece of that pie too. And recently, CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, Herman Hulse, was even mentioning, yeah, like, I think it's time to go back into our catalog of old IPs, which of course most of them being 3D platformers. Maybe it's time to dig up the old bones again of Sir Daniel Fortesque with a brand new title in the Medieval franchise. Jak and Daxter obviously is one I will talk to death. I had just beaten Jak and Daxter 1 and 2 for the first time this year actually, and I don't know why I never got around to beating it as a kid. I guess my attention span was just so shit with all the games I had at the time, but oh man, seeing those franchises come back with brand new hardware, utilizing the DualSense and things like that, it'd be a lot of fun. 3D platformers were starting to die out once you got into the 360 PS3 generation, thanks to games like Call of Duty and Halo. You know, as we got older, we wanted the more mature titles and things like that. But now I'm seeing that shift again. Like I said, as we're getting older, I think now we just want like some nice wholesome games once in a while. And especially like around my age group, people are starting to have kids now and they want to be able to share the experiences that we had growing up with our kids. And you know, when I become a father one day, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to be able to play a game like Astro Bot with my future children and, you know, just have a good time, shut your brain off and just have a good time, you know. With Astro Bot's win at the Game Awards, I think that signifies a major shift for all these companies to start taking risks on these games. And also, frankly, these games are lower budget too. You know, I'm not saying Astro Bot's budget was just a sneeze. You know, when you compare it to games like Insomniac Spider-Man 2, Horizon Forbidden West, the massive failure that was Concord, this game has a lower budget and is selling like crazy, and people just care about having fun. Going forward, you know, I want to see these companies stop focusing so much on we have to have the biggest budget, we have to have the most realistic looking game. I love an experience like that. I don't think that has to be all of a company's portfolio. Like, let's actually look at a game like Returnal, right? Returnal was not that mega blockbuster like some of the aforementioned titles I mentioned, but it was just a fun gamey game. And you know what I mean by like a gamey game? It's not just the realism all the time. It's just good shooting aliens, like something basic like that, you know, just having fun exploring this little game world, getting power-ups, stuff like that. The way Astro Bot utilizes features on the DualSense, it would be neat to see these like kind of features being incorporated into future titles. PlayStation doesn't really have a whole lot on the horizon right now. They haven't brought up their 2025 roadmap yet, so I'm excited to see like how Astro Bot winning may have influenced their roadmap going forward. Oh shit, like we really need to start investing in these sorts of titles. Like, I miss when companies were able to take these risks without it like failing miserably to the point of like, oh, we gotta shut down a whole studio. Just like with Concord, right? The Firewalk Studios was just acquired in the past couple years by Sony just to be shut down because of Concord's failure. You know, back in the day, you were able to afford a flop here or there, you know what I mean? Like multiple flops in a row. It wouldn't hurt, you know, their bottom line. You know, it's really sad. Lower your budget, focus on the fun, and you'll see games like Astro Bot that actually pull in huge numbers for a company. I certainly believe that Astro Bot is going to push platformers into the stratosphere. The other nominees for Game of the Year were definitely worthy. I don't want to put Shadow of the Erdtree there. You know, that's obviously a talking point that's been done to death about DLC being up for consideration for Game of the Year. All the games on that list were phenomenal, and I would have been happy for any one of those victories except for Shadow of the Erdtree. Astro Bot winning winning for me was exciting, not only because Astro Bot was my favorite game of 2024. I can gush all day about why Astro Bot was my game of the year, and this is coming from somebody that loves his JRPGs and the various other titles on there. I have not played Black Myth Wukong yet, but I know once I get around to it, I'll have a blast with that game as well. But Astro Bot just means the future of gaming is gonna look even brighter than ever, because the past couple of years, man, it's just been such a downturn. There's just been such a lack of variety, you know, at least from the big boys, the big companies. I'm not talking about your indie developers, because indie developers have been absolutely killing it, especially when it comes to 3D platformers, like some of the titles I had mentioned, like A Hat in Time. The implications of this is massive. People have been very vocal now about where the gaming industry has been and where it's going, and I certainly see a whole slew of exciting titles be announced down the pipeline. We might start to see spin-offs now and existing franchises maybe go down the route of developing a 3D platformer. I think the future of 3D platformers is here to stay now. I mean, Nintendo's been like the one big company that has carried this genre on its back for so long, and 3D Mario will always sell. I don't think we're ever going to see a time where a 3D Mario doesn't sell, and I mean, it's literally a system seller, you know what I mean? It's not just a game that sells well, it sells units. Once we see what 3D platformers are going to be like on the Switch 2 with that hardware, we're going to see all these companies start to push each other to make these great games that we loved so much growing up and will continue to love going forward. I hope this kicks Xbox in the ass a little bit too now. Bring back Banjo-Kazooie, man. We've been asking for a new Banjo game, or even Conquer, God, for the past 20 years now. Banjo-Kazooie got nuts and bolts in 2008, but even when I was a kid playing that, I knew that that game was jank, man. I appreciate that they tried something different, but just bring back that good, wholesome fun of a 3D platformer. Banjo 3 or a Conker's Bad Fur Day 2 would be huge for Xbox. That will sell. I'm telling you, man, that shit will sell. People have been asking for these titles now for so long. What do you guys think about Astro Bot winning Game of the Year this year? Were you guys excited about that? Were you upset about that? What are your thoughts about it shifting the industry in a different direction? Do you think it'll be for the better? Sound off below. Let me know your thoughts. Yeah, that's gonna do it for me, guys. Also, if you're watching this video and you have not played Astro Bot yet, do yourself a favor, get a copy of Astro Bot and just have a blast. Play it by yourself, play it with your family. Let me know what your thoughts about that are as well. But for now, that's gonna do it for me, guys. Have yourselves a good one and have a happy new year.